Does the register-based census reduce census cost and time? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our new webinar series, Interview with Expertise. This is your host, Mohammed Hisham from Amman, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And today, our discussion will be about register-based census. We are going to discuss the register-based census from different angles: benefits, challenges, and impact on SDGs monitoring. This event is sponsored by CountBig for data collection and Strategy 360 for indicators monitoring. We have our guest, Dr. Abu-Nuwar. Dr. Abu-Nuwar is a census consultant, a capacity development specialist, sustainable development advisor, and a former UNFPA regional director. Hi, Doctor. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
It's our pleasure to host you today.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. I thank CountBig for this opportunity, and also I thank the august audience who will follow us through this interview.
Okay, Doctor, we would like to start our discussion today by tapping on the importance of data. So would you please elaborate more on the importance or relation between the data and development?
The relation between the data and development stems from the fact that there is a social contract between a government and its population. And this relationship is based on the government being the duty bearer and the people the rights holders. So what does that mean is that the government is obliged not only to meet the needs of its population, rather to meet their aspirations as well. Aspiration in the area of social, economic, demographic, health, education, employment, wages, you name it, all spheres of life. The aspirations of the people must follow what we call the rights-based approach. For the rights-based approach to fulfill its mandate, we need other tools, such as results-based management approach for policy, program, development, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and introducing improvements to the data, to the plans, to the action plans, to the implementation where required. All this requires data. Actually, vast number of data batteries covering all aspects of life. And the data, which is the plural of datum, each datum should enjoy the best quality possible. Data without quality is a waste twice. Waste of time, effort, as well as expectations. The first waste would be on collecting the data that has poor quality. And the second waste would be that development planning would be based on wrong ideas, otherwise known as garbage in, garbage out.
Doctor, development planning requires a huge amount of data. So how can we make such data readily available with the minimum cost?
Well, the solution for governments to go for an integrated information system. What is an integrated information system? It's the system through which we collect the data, being census, population, agriculture, manufacturing, you name it. Sample surveys, social, economic, demographic, health, big data, plus register-based data. This is a treasure of data. Unfortunately, not fully tapped until now. So this integrated information system should enjoy quality of the data. I always emphasize on the quality of the data. It's key to successful plans of sustainable development goals. Now, these data should enjoy the power of establishing current level, future trends, and disparities. Disparities by gender, age groups, small area, geographic area, socioeconomic groups, to inform the duty bearer as well as the stakeholder, the private sector as well, on where the problem rests, problem of development. Where does it rest? To understand and appreciate such problems, we need another tool called causality analysis, cause and effect theory. In the causality analysis, we can picture it as a tree. What we observe is the stem and the branches. And that's what we observe, a problem. But what are the real causes of this problem? It's the roots hidden under the soil. And there are techniques for understanding what caused these problems. And once we understand the causes, we can put the correct solutions. Solutions could become in the form of policy, strategy, development plan based on result-based management approach, and implementation. There is a schema which was developed by UNFPA in our literature, 20 years of experience by Abu-Nuwar and et al. Essentially, it's made of 3 columns. Column number 1 talks about data, quality data. Census survey, big data, register-based data that covers elements of the person, of the household, of the family, of the community, of the factory, of the agriculture holding, and the like. This is the first. That move into the analytics. Now we take this data and we analyze it so that we understand what it really means. We identify the problems. We identify the causes. And once we have that knowledge, we use it for policy development, for strategy development, for development planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, but equally for evidence-based policy dialogue and advocacy. Now, this schema is continuous, and we observe the results through the monitoring, follow-up, and evaluation. And we take note of limitations, if any. And that feed again into collecting other data, program data, as well as subject matter data.
So, Doctor, why register-based census is important?
To answer this question, I must tell you what are the limitations of a census. What are the limitations of sample survey? And how difficult it is to harness and use big data. Let me start by problems with a census. A census is a very costly, delicate undertaking. It's complex in nature. And it has to deal with the population, with the person. So we are observing persons difficult to reach. I cannot locate them. Difficult to convince to give me data. They consider it their right not to give me any information about themselves or their agriculture holder or their economic affairs, in fear of many things, tax being one, evil eye is another in certain cultures. So there is response fatigue as well. You ask me too many questions. I'm tired, please leave. I will not continue the interview. So that means there is a population fatigue, response fatigue. There is no response at all. They close the door. Sorry, don't ask me. Moreover, the quality of the answer itself, no one can tell you the answer is accurate, semi-accurate, or false. So the quality of the data is at question, and that requires certain actions to test the quality of the data. Most countries do not go through it, like post-enumeration sample survey, like validation of the questions, techniques, and it requires expertise. For the sample survey, the problem is even greater. It has to do with probability science, meaning, is my sample correct? Is the size of the sample appropriate? What are the sampling errors? What are the non-sampling errors? So we are spending much money to get a picture in time, not dynamic. Keeping this in mind and looking at the treasure of registry is continuous and of good quality because government depend on registers to administer its work, government business. Hence, we have good data, rapid data, timeliness of the data, with extremely little cost. But don't let extremely little cost fool you. To convert a register system of data into a statistical system based on the register require time, effort, knowledge, and upfront funds. So there is an investment at the beginning, which is relatively huge, less than a census, but still huge. On the long run, it becomes most economic. Hence, we believe that for socioeconomic, demographic, and health development planning, we require quality data. A census and survey not always provide such quality data. Admin registers, administrative registers, do that. Hence, the importance of population register, economic register, health register, tax register, employment register, and the like.
Okay, Doctor, how to arrive at a register-based statistical system?
As we said, the register system exists in each and every country at varying degrees. For example, birth, death, marriage, divorce is recorded by the government. Yeah. This is a matter of legal right. Yeah. So, the register keeps track of all events that are necessary for the government to implement its policies and action programs. Education, highest education attainment, certificates, employment, wages, taxation, health, diseases, morbidity.
Yeah.
So all this is recorded by the government continuously. The question is now, can we tap that source of data, which is in nature of high quality? The answer is yes. How? We need to start a dialogue between the Statistical Office, National Statistical Office, and the owner of each and every register. What does that dialogue mean or entail? It entails understanding that this data stored in a database belonging to a government entity can be used for statistical purposes, government to government. But also private sector collects data. Production, costing, import, export, in addition to the government for balances and checks. So also we need to negotiate with the private sector in order to reach an agreement for the Statistical Office to use the data stored in the register-based database. What are the issues in this discussion? They are four. One, legal, because the government office or the private sector responsible for maintaining a register has in its bylaws some information that cannot be shared with anyone. We need to use this information. So this legal require review of existing laws and modifying them in such a way so that such data stored in a register can be used for a statistical purpose without divulging any personal information of anything, not of a factory, not of a farm, not of a household, nothing. And this would be the problem of legal work. It takes time to reach legal agreements and solve issues that hinder the transfer of data from a register to a statistical register. The second issue is administrative, meaning, do I have qualified people in the national statistical system to harness the data, to establish the scope, the content, the definitions, the classifications that I need as a statistician, commensurate with the same that exists in a register? Usually there is a difference. So we need to iron that difference and reach an agreement on how to redefine, reclassify the data contained in a register. The third one is technical in nature. Assuming we reached agreements on legal issues, on organizational issues, now I come to administrative issues. How am I, as a statistician, gonna transfer the data into my databases in such a way that I maintain the quality, I maintain the statistical requirements of the datum itself, and not divulge any private information Usually we use such a thing like SDMX, statistical data and metadata exchange. Data coming from a register should be coupled with the metadata of that data, so that as a statistician, as a user, data user, I can appreciate and understand what that data mean. So these things put together help arriving at a register-based integrated information statistical system.
Yes, the point of keeping the data privacy while collecting the data is very important. So, Doctor, is the register-based census totally replacing the conventional census?
Not in my opinion. Eventually, the answer will be yes. However, it is gathering momentum rapidly, but not in a decent speed. When we conducted an evaluation of population census, for example, in the European community for the census rounds of 2010, 2000, 2010, and 2020, we learned that some countries did not conduct a population census. Other countries conducted a register-based population census standalone. And the other party conducted a register-based census supported by an actual census and sample surveys. So increasingly, countries are moving toward a statistical-based population census, agricultural census, industrial census, you name it. And there is a pictorial schema showing the emerging of countries from a traditional census into a register-based census, and the number now stands at 14. The good news is in our countries, in the Middle East, for example, Sultanate of Oman just finished a successful population and housing census based on register. So congratulations to the Sultanate of Oman, and I hope that the rest of our countries in the Middle East would follow suit. Likewise in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Europe.
So, Doctor, I think register-based census face a lot of challenges, included the institutional challenges. So, how can we mitigate those challenges from the very beginning?
First and foremost, know-how, knowledge, expertise. Second, we need a political will, meaning legal clauses that support the transfer of data from a government entity or a non-governmental entity or a private sector to the statistical office. Also, we need to inform the populace, the people themselves, because statistics must enjoy trust and confidence, not only of the data user, but also of the people themselves, the population. So we need to work on advocacy and awareness creation. Why is it we are depending on a register rather than on face-to-face data collection through its various techniques? CAWI and CATI and CAPI and all of these techniques. In order to make it easier for the people to enjoy better quality of the data, a reduced cost of collecting the data, and the timeliness. It's extremely important, timeliness. I conduct the census once every 10 years, and I get a fixed picture. Development planning is dynamic. I need to keep feeding the process with data. A census doesn't do that. Sample surveys, yes, but at what cost? Extremely high cost.
This is what we name continuous census?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Norway, for example, by a push of button, that's an exaggeration anyway, by a push of button, they can generate a census. As simple as that, because their register-based system has matured enough to be able to generate a statistical database which is updated continuously. But let me explain what do I mean by continuously. It is not that every minute on the minute I can update the register. No. There are, for each indicator, for each kind of data, a time span through which I can generate the data from a register. And this duration could be measured by a month, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months. This can be established through the dialogue between the statistician and the holder of the administrative record. Also important is to look at other issues, other problems, other challenges, one of which is, can I make the match easy? When I take the data, the information about a thing, a person, in the register, I use something called personal identification number, which is unique. If I'm talking in the area of business, it is business, IN. When I convert, I need to convert it into what I call register information number. Whether it is a dwelling, a house, an apartment, a factory, a farm, all this need to have a clear identification, never duplicated. So when we are talking about institutional challenges to a register-based data, converting it into a statistical system, we need to overcome all the problems of traditional methods. As mentioned earlier, whether it is a census, whether it is sample survey, or even big data, which is big in volume, rapid, big size, that current statistical tools cannot control it or analyze it. So we need to use Hadoop system, Hadoop Hive, and R software to control for the big data. So when we are talking about challenges of administrator-based data, we need to keep in mind what are the difficulties, the problems, the limitations of the traditional methods. Traditional methods suffer from high cost, issue of timeliness, it's a fixed point in time, not continuous, suffer from quality of the data due to response fatigue and or non-response, or incomplete answers. So keeping all this in mind, we now turn to administrative record data and re-examine whether or not it meets the needs of a statistical agency for quality, coherence, responsiveness, and acceptance by the users, data user. And this usually is carried out through data producer, data user dialogue. Plus, we need to inform the population, the people themselves, through evidence-based advocacy. Now, one major institutional issue is reaching the agreement between the various holders of the administrative registers so that we can, as statistical entity, merge, integrate various registers into a basic register. This requires the matching. We mentioned business has the business identification number, BIN. The person has the PIN, the personal identification number, which we convert into a register identification number. Now, for example, if I am to match a population basic register and support that with employment register for the same person, I need to match information of this person coming from different registers, right?
Yeah.
Good. So, what are the problems? Is it smooth sailing like that? No. Because if I am to use the human eye manual matching, it's going to take long time, but it will be intelligent.
Yeah.
But takes long time. Long time means also cost and lost opportunity of timeliness. But I can machine. I use machine intelligence. Machine intelligence is not smart. Meaning I can fall simply into false matching. Let's say for this person, I call it A. And the information coming from employment, wages, etc., B. B does not equal A. Machine might say it's a match. It's a false match. Other, the same person, the machine might read it as non-match. It's matching, but the machine read it as unmatched. Cleaning this has to resort back to the manual, to the human person, to ensure quality. Also, not all what we need from a statistical point of view is available or resident in the register. There is a limitation of data also. So through the continuous dialogue and re-examination of the bylaws of each agency, we can reach an agreement on how to enlarge the scope and content of each register. Now, these approaches are easy to say rather than do. It requires solid expertise for such matching. There are advantages, major advantages of moving slowly but steadily, moving from traditional way of collecting data into the most advanced techniques of using a register data to move it into a statistical unit and generate statistical data continuously. But continuously, as one can say, it's not every minute on the minute update. No, there is agreement on the updating between the statistical office and the holder of that register. One important challenge: database that will store the data is maintained by the holder of the register. And now I will transfer it into a statistical register. In doing so, it does not come free of cost. We should keep that in mind. Statistical office need to have special budget to cover cost of transferring this data. And if I am getting the information from the private sector is going to sell it, not give it free. So statistical office budgeting ought to have an item for data transfer. Not only money for the data transfer, but also to promote and explain to the populace what does such data mean and what limitation it has. That require advocacy, publicity campaigns. So essentially, the advantages of using an administrator-based data is by far much better and will compensate for the limitations, for the hardship, for the institutional problems of using such data.
Great, Doctor. You have tapped very important points, including the AI and the relation between AI and data. And I think we might need a special episode for this topic itself. And about the register-based data, I think we will never get enough from this topic.
Indeed.
And I think now we ran out of time. So let's continue our discussion about register-based census in the next part, second part of this interview. Till then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your participation. Wish you had a knowledgeable and interesting interview. See you in the second part of the interview. Please leave a comment. Let us know your feedback of today's interview. We will carefully read all your comments. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Abu-Nuwar, for your precious information and the information you provided today. We are really honored to host you.
Thank you very much. And thanks to the audience. And as you said, I hope that they benefited from this interview. And of course, the topic is so huge that cannot be covered by 1 or 2 or 3 interviews. I would be very much interested in reading comments, questions, and I'm most prepared to answer all. Once again, thanks to CountBig, thanks to Strategy 360 for monitoring sustainable development goals. I hope that the material has been sufficient enough for an introductory know-how about register-based census. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor, very much. And for more details about the sponsors CountBig for data collection and Strategy 360 for indicators monitoring, you can request a free demo through the website linkdevelopment.com under Products and Platforms section. Till we meet again, have a happy and productive time. Thank you. Your host, Mohammed Hisham from Link Development. Does the register-based census reduce census cost and time? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interview with Expertise. This is Mohammed Hisham from Amman, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And in the second part of the interview, we will continue discussing the register-based census. This event is sponsored by CountBig, the data collection, and Strategy 360 for indicators monitoring. Our guest is Dr. Abu-Nuwar. Dr. Abu-Nuwar is a census consultant, a capacity development specialist, sustainable development advisor, and a former UNFPA regional director. Hi, Doctor. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Doctor, it's our pleasure to host you again in the second part. In the previous part, you have mentioned civil registration. Would you please elaborate more?
Certainly. Civil registration, the United Nations, as of the year 1952, in collaboration with the World Health Organization, promoted the very procedure of registering vital events by the government as part of human rights of the population. When I say vital events, what are these vital events? Vital events, when a baby is born, this is a vital event. When a person dies, that's another vital event. When a man and woman, a couple, form a family, that's another event, family formation. When the couple divorce each other, that's a family dissolution, divorce. Each of these events is recorded by the government. A born child is entitled for a name and a nationality. Also entitled for good life, good development, education, love, caring, pampering, nutrition, immunization, good health, good education, good university, employment, meaningful employment, reasonable income, to be able to pursue his or her ambitions in life. All this depends on having an identity, meaning recorded by the government that on such a date, father so-and-so, mother so-and-so had a birth of baby boy, baby girl, name so-and-so, date of birth, time of birth, place of birth, nationality, all such information. Other countries add the weight of the baby, the blood type of the baby, the health condition of the baby. So all these events, when recorded by a government, usually Ministry of Health or Ministry of Interior, is referred to as civil registration.
Okay.
Now, this is the first part. So, as I mentioned, since 1952, the United Nations, coupled with the World Health Organization, promoted civil registration and supported member nations by technical support as well as financial support to establish population registers. Before IT, hardware and software, they used to be logged in by hand, to register the events by hand, meaning that there was a limitation of how much data you can record for each event. Churches and the science of genealogy by the church have helped immensely way before erecting a civil registration system. Now, this civil registration can be used for statistical purposes. That's what the United Nations also promoted. Hence the concept, civil registration, vital statistics, meaning to convert the information in this register of vital events into vital statistics, meaning in a given year, between the date so-and-so and the date so-and-so, government of country Layla Land had X number of births. So many boys, so many girls. So many of them died at age 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a month, less than a year, over a year. This is very important. Also, maternal death is also important to be registered with the cause of death, because reproductive health is a right. Right for the mother, right for the child. Hence, Abu-Nuwar Regional Initiative for Reducing Maternal and Neonatal Mortality and Morbidity. Well, that was an initiative that gathered over 500 specialists in gynecology, obstetrics gynecology, to look into this problem. Why we call it a problem? Because the information gathered showed that the number of deaths, as well as the number of morbidities resulting from pregnancy and birth, are extremely high. So that initiative looked into the issue from a 360-degree angle to look into how we can reduce that from a health point of view, from a social point of view, from a telecommunication point of view, from a transportation point of view, because if a lady is in labor and there's a problem, you need to transfer that lady immediately and smoothly to a hospital. If you don't have transport, what will happen?
She might be dying.
If you don't have a telephone line to call for ambulance, what would happen? So that was the initiative, and it is a result of studying the vital statistics emanating from the civil registration. Now, this is in the simple form. Does it get more complex? Absolutely, it does. For example, countries that conduct a census or a population census based on a register can use this data as different source to measure accuracy of the data gathered either from traditional census or from a register-based census. Moreover, family formation. Usually, when you register the new birth, you also register the siblings, the brothers and sisters. You register also the grandparents. You can elaborate on what information you gather in the registration form, as long as it is for better use of the information. The civil registration vital statistics benefited from technical advances of software and hardware. So now it is computerized. And when it is computerized, it is much easier to integrate such information into the basic population database, which is register-based. So we need to assure the accuracy. We need to assure the good matching. We need to assure that each individual, upon birth, is given a personal identification number. This was not the case before. Most countries now, once the baby is born, a personal identification number is issued to that individual through life. What happened to this number after death? Never used again. So unique. And this we use for matching records. So essentially, this is the Civil Registration Vital Statistics, which by name is a transformation from a government-based register for administrative purposes into a statistical output, and intelligent, useful. How about morbidity? Well, there's a system by WHO, IMRU, called RASIDUN, a very intelligent, powerful system. What does it do? It monitors the incidence of communicable disease. And once it reaches a threshold, certain threshold of level, immediately it triggers awareness. There is a problem, a health problems in a specific area. So the medical apparatus all move to address that issue and stop communicable diseases, such as, for example, TB, malaria. Moreover, cholera, COVID-19, new diseases that we hear of, but I'm not going to mention. Nowadays, there are other than COVID-19 coming up in large scale. So this monitoring of disease is also civil registration.
Yeah.
So we know that in this area, there is a health issue, communicable in nature, due to insects, water, air, or earth-borne, airborne, waterborne. So essentially, this is what I can tell you about civil registration vital statistics.
Yes, this is very important, and thank you for your elaborative answer on this point. And also, you have mentioned something about the quality of the register itself.
Yes.
So this is a very important point when it comes to maybe some countries they don't rely so much on the registers because they are not confident about the quality of data on for these registers.
Absolutely.
So how can we assess the quality of register data from the point of view of completeness, accuracy, and timeliness?
Let me go back a little bit about death registration.
Yeah.
A major problem that limits the benefits of death registration is the cause of death. During my tenure with the government of Jordan, as well as with the United Nations, I served the United Nations for over 28 years and covered a vast number of countries in censuses, civil registration, sample surveys, register-based censuses, you name it. From China census all the way to Vanuatu. And my responsibility was to ensure that each and every country have quality data and at least one census, at least. Hence, the Africa Census Program, hence the Latin America census program, the China, Vietnam, Namibia for independence, all this. The issue of cause of death is critical. During my tenure, I used to review records with the permission of governments. The idea is to ascertain weakness, strength, opportunities, and threats, SWOT technique. And what one would observe, that cause of death always relate to blood pressure and heart stoppage. In all countries, most of the death causality is this. So, with the help of WHO, with the help of the United Nations and the US government, we introduced first what we call verbal autopsy, meaning by questioning the relatives or those who attended the death event about certain features of the process of death. And accordingly, from the answers, one can establish the real cause of death. But then anatomy became a better definition of cause of death. So the anatomy tells the cause of death is X or Y or Z. Now, why this is important, cause of death? Because it can be preventable.
Yeah.
If we understand what the issue is and why it is happening, one can deal with it. How can we ascertain the quality? When we ascertain the quality of the civil registration, we also ascertain the quality of the vital statistics. By doing so, and by matching the same information from two or more different sources, like a population census and a civil registration comparison, we can establish linkages and we determine whether it is duplicated, it is missing, value is missing. Census says I have, for example, when we generate the tables and aggregate, let's assume it says in this specific year we have a number of births minus a number of deaths for babies. Neonatal, meaning the first 42 days of life, for example. In the census, we asked, is the child still alive? But we did not ask when this child had died. So what can you establish about quality of the data? Only whether or not this person is included in the census and or included in the civil registration. The best is when there is a positive match and this baby is accounted for in civil registration as well as in a census. If accounted for in the civil registration and no death registration for this baby, the assumption is this baby alive. But I don't see this baby in the register of the census. This means that the census had a missing value. When I see in the census that this baby is counted twice, that's a duplication. That takes away from the quality of the census. So essentially, we should count each individual, each unit, once and only once. No missing value, no duplication. Now I come to the incomplete answers. Civil registration, a mature civil registration, captures good data and good quality information that might go beyond the questionnaire and the questions contained in the census. So it adds to the census. Hence, when they tell you this country conducted a register-based census supported by a traditional census. Reason being is to complement and enlarge the scope of the data and its content. So essentially, that's how we measure quality. But then you ask me, what is quality? Well, quality is determined by the data user. The data user would tell the statistician what is required and why. And that determines the level of accuracy, of timeliness, and so on. Just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
If I am to have a sample designed by probability with level of confidence 95%, which most sample surveys are designed at that level, 90% or 95%. But if I would like to have much better quality in terms of less sampling error, I go for 99%. The cost of the survey moving from 95% confidence interval to 99 is tenfold. And what kind of information I'll get? I did not account for response error, for non-response, for partial response. Again, quality is measured by timeliness. If I get good quality, but not in time to monitor sustainable development goals, is this quality data?
Sure not.
No. If I get what is called quality data, whether it is from traditional census, whether it is from sample survey or register, but at a very high cost, is this quality? No.
Yeah.
If I get qualitative data, good quality data, but takes time to tabulate, I conduct the census and 3 years thereafter I come with the results. What does that mean? Useless.
Yes.
History.
Yes.
History doesn't yield any positive impact on development. So essentially, and in summary, this is the quality of the data. It has to be relevant, that a user find it useful. Yes, I need this kind of data. Yes, this level of accuracy suits me good, fine. I'm happy with it, I'm good. Timeliness, yes, it is in time for me to monitor the progress toward achieving the sustainable development goals. I can monitor with ease. Yes, it is elaborate enough, gives me enough information, doesn't hide information from me. That's quality.
Yeah. Okay, Doctor, if the quality of register data is fine, okay. In case that a country succeeded to implement a real-time register integration, how this can benefit in monitoring the national SDGs?
A very sharp question and intelligent as well. You use 3 points: real-time integration, monitoring, sustainable development goals. I'll take them one by one, not in that order, and then come back to your question and answer it so that the audience, the August audience, can take a full picture. What is SDGs? It stands for Sustainable Development Goals. Personally, I add an H, Sustainable Human Development Goal. Because this human has rights. The right to life, the right to development, and that's inter alia so many other rights. And this is the rights-based approach. The United Nations carried before SDGs 4 developmental decades where funds and expertise were provided to developing countries in order to enhance the quality of life of the people. Quality of life means good life. And I'll come later to the slogan, good data means good life, or good life requires good data. I'll come to that. In the year 2000, the United Nations advocated for Millennium Development Goals. And that development goals ran between the year 2000 and 2015. Varying degrees of success were encountered by developing countries. The United Nations decided that we need to go beyond the 11 goals of Millennium Development Goals. We need to go into 17 integrated, comprehensive goals. Hence the cycle, as you can see with the colors. This is the symbol of sustainable development goals, which I refer to as sustainable human development goals. So, between the years 2015 till the year 2030, SDGs will run in each and every country, not only developing country, but developed country as well. And this is an improvement. It should address each and every aspect of life, nothing left behind. Nothing left behind. It calls inter alia for global cooperation. We humans are on this globe, in this environment, with limited resources. Renewable or non-renewable remain limited. Financing, know-how, time is essential. Time is essential. I cannot invoke a national sustainable development program when I have no data.
Sure.
When I have poor quality data. When the data is not rendered on time with good quality. When I have to look for different sources of data to get the picture. Hence the integrated register system. The housing, the population, the household, the individual, the community, the farm, the manufacturing, the employment, the education, the taxation, all these, as mentioned in the first interview, can be linked intelligently and smartly by means of using the register identification number of each unit. And this number cannot be duplicated. And once the event is finished, the person, for example, dies, the number dies with him or her. And we should ensure the full accountability for each and every unit of the subject matter without missing values, without duplication. The SDGs that will run between 15 and 30 are made of 17 comprehensive, integrated goals, not stand-alone. Hence the cycle. Not stand-alone, integration. So if this is integrated, data should be integrated as well. And should be of good quality. And why this development? For good life. And good life, to arrive at good life, I need good data. Hence, good data for good life. 17 goals, over 119 purposes, 247 indicators to measure change by time and effort. And this depends on a theory called theory of change. Science, theory of change. For theory of change to be appreciated and become useful, I need data that is available by certain intervals of time. A traditional census wouldn't help me. It's carried out once every 10 years, or in some countries, 5. Doesn't help for monitoring. So these are the SDGs. And there is a pictorial showing what these goals are, what these purposes are, what are the inputs, what are the expected outputs, and how to measure change. To measure change, I need data. I call it indicators. And I should congratulate CountBig for Strategy 360 for monitoring national SDGs. This is so unique and an excellent contribution to sustainable development. How to intelligently, accurately measure it. CountBig provided the quality data on time with good elaboration, definition, classification, and Strategy 360 is the tool to measure change by time and effort. Hence, development toward realizing the desired or targeted goals at the national level, at the small geographic level, at the various socio-economic, demographic, and health groups. And that is a big contribution to development literature. So I congratulate you guys.
Oh, thank you.
That's the SDGs. The integration. The integration is not a simple task to be carried out, but it's a must-do. A must-do. It's not luxury. It's a requirement. Because with that integration, I can measure the units that did not match and resolve the conflict of matching. Now, that's the integration. This is the SDGs. What is the monitoring? Now, to monitor, I need indicators. The global agreement, we have put around 247 indicators. Each indicator is so unique that it measures change at the level of output. Then we measure at the level of progress and impact. Impact on the quality of life. An indicator should enjoy the term SMART. What is SMART? The S stands for specific. It measures specific thing. The M, the A, the R, the T. You mentioned quality, you mentioned timeliness. T is the timeliness. To have that indicator readily available at the moment I need to use it. Yeah. Not after. What is the M? Measurable. You can measure it. What is A? Achievable. Yes, I can collect that indicator. And responsive. That's SMART. The key is on specific, measurement, applicability, relevance, and timeliness. You cannot measure an event that is continuous in happening with a fixed in time value, like a census. You need batteries of data through administrative records that generate data continuously agreed upon intervals of update. That is a must. When the statistician and the subject matter of the register come to agreement, they come to agreement how often and when and how we will update the register, statistical one. So, the process through which these are the tools, the integration, the indicator, the monitoring, but how? Very important to talk about the how, not the what only.
Yes.
7 questions. On the how, we need to refer to theory of change and to results-based management approach, RBM, referred to as RBM. And the whole idea of RBM is to allow you to look into specific input, output, and impacts. Yeah. Monitoring is an integral part of policy, strategy, and development planning. It keeps feeding information, advising the subject matter and the people at large. How are we doing? Are we on target? Are we way behind? Are we offline completely? Hence, you introduce what we call program interventions, improvements through the monitoring process of the indicators. Indicators are useful for monitoring. So, if I reach an integrated registration system that enjoys quality, that produces required results on time, required, then I have the indicators and I have the tools to measure the change. Then I can improve the quality of development, hence the quality of life. I hope I answered your question in simple terms.
Yes, it was very elaborative and very straightforward answer. Thank you very much for clarifying this point. And I would like I have a question. I would like to ask why emphasis is placed on monitoring and evaluation?
For the very same reason of exacting development plans. Monitoring and evaluation in absence of timely, quality, and relevant data and indicators means nothing.
Yeah.
So this requirement of quality, timeliness, and relevance of the indicators, of the data, is a must. Now, in the cycle of implementing development plans, sustainable development plans, I need to keep an eye on the change, how much benefit I accrued. Doctors, engineers, professors, teachers, drivers, the whole society is working. The machine is going on. They are channeled through specific reasons for achieving certain change, certain result. How would I know how close or far they are from the desired path of development? It's not your guess as good as mine. If I am implementing a program of producing wheat at national level, I cannot be the person to tell you I am doing good. Cannot be.
Yeah.
I do my business. Some other entity monitors what I'm doing, follow up on what I'm doing. They carry what we call measuring the change by time and by effort. And if I am offline, if I am far away from the right approach, if I need more acceleration of work, then I say, what do I need? Do I need money? Do I need know-how? Do I need software, hardware, equipment? What do I need? Policy, laws. And this comes to feed into the cycle of development planning according to the schema I mentioned, the 3 pillars,
Yeah.
and produce, feed into the cycle program intervention, correction to the path. This is the reason why I emphasize monitoring and evaluation. Having emphasized quality of the data, timeliness of the data, relevance of the data, and that data supports comparison, country to country comparison.
Yes.
Because at the very end, these are global sustainable development goals.
Doctor, I would like to ask you what tools are there readily available for measuring and evaluation?
Scientists have come with a very simple yet very powerful tool called the log frame approach. Logical framework approach. Log frame, logical framework approach. Supported by a software. Software name Log Framer. Log Framer. Currently we are at version 2. And essentially it's a table, to make it simple, a table that puts the goals in hierarchical order. Objects that can change by the direct input. Then a higher level of goals, purposes, that happen not only by the direct input, but by other supporting conditions. And that evaluate to a goal, the 17 goals. Log frame concept takes this hierarchical level of results And here put the input. What was the input? What is the indicator to measure the change?
Yeah.
Who is responsible for generating the data for this indicator? What agency? How often this indicator will be generated in a specific time? And that table together generate through the software intelligent results of measuring the change, log frame. So the tools we need to use are the log frame, logical framework, theory of change. We need the indicators, 247, not necessarily 247 if I'm not taking the 17 goals altogether. And the data, the quality data. When we started in this learning, this business of development as a human right issue, to emphasize the importance of qualitative data, there were slogans. I don't like them, but they are there. One of them says, statistics does not lie by itself. Statisticians do.
Yeah.
It's how you interpret the statistics. The other one is GO, garbage in, garbage out. I don't like this, but that's what we learned in specialized courses by Harvard, by Georgetown, and other universities, by the US Bureau of Census, by the European Community. That's what we learned. So you need to put in place all these requirements for development. Above all, that the people themselves are aware and they support the desired change. So we measure the actual realization of development, issue by issue, indicator by indicator, as measured to desired level of achievement. The gap is gap. Knowledge, K. Attitude, A. P. Practice, what I do. Gap. And I must fill in the gap. I don't have enough knowledge, I buy the knowledge. Simple.
Yeah.
Attitude, evidence-based policy, dialogue, evidence-based awareness creation. No one can argue success. And people are intelligent. Once you give the evidence, they follow you.
Okay, Doctor, I would like to thank you very much for the precious information you provided during this interview. We are really honored to host you in this interview.
Well, the honor is all mine. I thank CountBig and Strategy 360 for monitoring SDGs. Equally, I thank the August audience and hope that they found the material useful, beneficial, and they can put into practice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdelmanem Abu-Nuwar. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your active participation. Wish you had a knowledgeable and interesting interview. Please leave a comment. Let us know your feedback on today's interview and tell us, what do you prefer the next interview to be on? We will carefully read all your comments. For more details about sponsors, CountBig for data collection and Strategy 360 for indicators monitoring, you can request a free demo through the website linkdevelopment.com under Products and Platforms section. Till we meet again in a new interview with expertise, have a happy and productive time. Thank you. Your host Mohammed Hisham from Link Development.